Happy Sunday, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is Overkill bringing you Basic Fundamentals Course 2 for the F-14 Tomcat. Today we will go over the long startup using Jester and the checklist. And then in the next course we'll go over the pilot seat course 2, where we go over all the new instruments that come to life when the aircraft is started. As usual, let's go ahead and take a look at some controls that you're going to want to bind as we're getting ready to get the aircraft started. Okay, so we're getting into the fun stuff, so let's find out what that looks like. Okay, so first thing that we're going to want to look at is your landing gear. Obviously, you want your gear down and gear up. You can toggle it if you don't have the ability to use both. Okay, we're going to want our flaps. Okay, so flaps up and flaps down. There's an emergency flaps up and flaps down up in the E section. Don't use those, use these guys. Okay, your flashlight, if you're going to want that late at night, you know, might be kind of helpful when you're first starting up the aircraft. Make sure that you go into your axis assignments, check out your rudder, check out your pitch, your roll axis, throttle left and right if you are able to do so. Now, cool tip for these, if you are a Thrustmaster Warthog user, come into the axis tune, set your curvature to about 17, set the type to slider, and that's on the left throttle. On the right throttle, go to axis tune, set the curvature to 18, again as slider. And if you have the detent installed, when you get to the detent, you will be at damn close, if not on the money, to mil power, although results may vary based on the age and wear of your sensors inside the Thrustmaster, but should definitely get you close enough where you're not going to notice much of a difference. All right, so as long as you guys have that stuff in place, obviously left and right wheel brakes, can't remember if I said that one, and then if you are like me, you may have to invert them. If you set your wheel brakes and you notice that when your feet are not on the pedals that the brake is applied, just come in here, tick this invert button, tap your wheel brakes when you get back in the aircraft, and you will be good to go. All right, so coming back to all of our controls here, we've gone over landing gear, we've gone over flaps, we've gone over axis control. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room, Mr. Jester. Okay, oop, tapped a button, my bad. Okay, so first thing that you're going to want is the check. Now, I'm going to throw a real quick tidbit in here, you guys. If you do not have voice attack, I highly recommend you look into it. I'll be doing a tutorial later the week on how to set it up on a very, very basic level, just to basically use some basic speech recognition on how to get it to send key commands. Long story short of it, though, is that it allows you to use voice commands that will in turn send a keyboard command to the simulator. Okay, so for example, I'm the one who put the controls for loud and clear and I believe check in there, so left control, left shift, and C for me, and that way when I say the word check, it executes the command check to the Jester AI, and you'll see what that looks like in here in just a minute when we get into the startup. The command 1 through 8, these are the menu options that pop up inside the Jester menu. Rather than, if you don't want to look around or you don't have a head tracking system like Track IR or VR, the menu works both by looking at it, or if you just don't want to have to deal with that. You can set up commands, map these to your buttons however you want to do it, and just a push button and it will operate in the same manner. The menu down buttons, don't worry about. This is what I was talking about with the VR or Track IR, which you'll see here in a minute again when we get in the startup, where you actually move the menu selection around. I wouldn't worry about mapping those. And then loud and clear, this is a good one, just a fun one actually is all it is. At one point during the startup, Jester will ask us for a comms check and make sure that we can hear him. Okay, and then the toggle menu here, this is the big one, must have. Don't skip anything else if you have to, but make sure that you bind this to your HOTAS because you're going to be using it a lot when flying the Tomcat. Okay. All right, so without further ado, let's get after it. So we're going to jump into the cockpit now. First part of our startup procedures, we're going to come over here and set the oxygen to on. And then what you're going to do is establish ground power and ground air supply. If you don't, and you go into the Jester menu and ask him to help us with the startup, he will tell you, hey, there's no electric power or ground supply, so this is what you'll do. One more thing that we want to bind before I forget. Nope, almost hit the wrong button. Radio 1 and the Radio 2. So here's Radio 1 at right alt and backslash, and UHF 2 for the ARC 182, one being the 159, with right control and backslash on UHF 2. Make sure you guys have those bound. You're going to want them. Okay, so we're going to hit UHF 2, go to F8, start the ground supply, go right back into it, F8, ground electric power, turn on.
Chief, not on the ground power.
Ground air supply is now connected.
Alright, you can hear the air supply there.
Ground power.
And there's our ground power. So now let's talk to the man that we've all been waiting to hear from, Jester. And we're going to come down here, and so using your VR or track IR, you can sit here and move your head, and this is the menu selection I was telling you about. If you ever just need to cancel him, you can just sit here and come over here and toggle the menu like that, and select an empty space and nothing will happen. Jester.
You okay?
Now by saying Jester every single time that I do that, essentially what's happening is I'm pressing the A key.
Check.
Loud and clear.
Roger. Check landing gear indication extended and transition light off.
Okay, so landing gear indication, you can see the DN indicates that they are down. Okay, speed brake is in. These are our landing gear indicators here. So we're good there. Now the other thing he's looking at is the transition light. This little light right here, when the gear is in motion, so it's going up or down, this light will illuminate. Okay, so you always want to make sure that's off, obviously, before we start the aircraft. Check.
Next, select LTS on master test switch and verify all lights illuminate.
Okay, so the LTS is the light test switch for the inside cockpit lights, all the lights and stuff. So what I did is here, I'm coming here to the master switch, I right-clicked to lift it up, left-click to turn it, and I'm going to right-click again to initiate the test. Okay, so we can see literally all of our lights are coming on, go, no-go lights here, coming up to the front panel. We got our fire warning lights, we have our landing gear check lights, all this stuff up here. We have our armament lights that are all on. There's a transition light I was telling you about. Here's the emergency jettison light. This light illuminates when you push the button to jettison your stores. Okay, we have our fuel probe lights. Alright, and it looks like we are good to go. Check.
Select fire DET EXT on master test selector and verify left and right fire go lights illuminate.
Okay, so the next thing it's having us test is the fire system. So we're going to again right click, left click, down. Coming up to the front, there's our fire go lights. Okay, there's a master caution illuminated. And there is the go light on the test system. Check.
Select INST on master test selector and verify that engine, fuel, wing sweep, and alpha instruments are working.
Okay, so we're going to right click. This is going to be the instrument test. Right click again. Okay, so now we can see that all of our caution lights are now on. Coming down here, we have our RPM gauges working perfectly, our exhaust temperature gauge, our fuel flow indicator for the left and right engines, and these are all respective. So left engine, left engine, left engine, and then opposite side, right, right, and right. Okay, our alpha indicator, or AOA, units indicator, working fine. Okay, and here's our wing sweep indicator, again, populated, good to go. And fuel quantity gauge down here, also working correctly. Alright, check.
Arm the ejection seat.
Alright, so we'll come up here and arm the ejection seat. Check.
Next, close canopy.
Now normally in the test procedure he can do, or in the startup procedure he can do this as well, but we'll go ahead and do it ourselves. Left control Charlie. Check.
Set gun rate, Sidewinder cool off, missile prep off, missile mode norm on ACM panel.
Okay, so we have our gun rate. The gun rate is the only one that you're going to want to adjust based on your preference. Low is the current default setting. Low is at 4,000 rounds per minute, so every time you depress the trigger, if you hold it down, it will spin out 4,000 rounds in 1 minute. High rate is 6,000 rounds per minute. This is typically used for air-to-air, and the low is used for air-to-ground. We're going to go ahead and set it for air-to-air. And the other thing he wanted was everything else to off, off, and norm. So SW cool is the Sidewinder cooling switch. When depressed, this will start the Sidewinder seeker to cool, getting it ready for launch. Missile prep is for the AIM-7 Sparrow and Phoenix, the AIM-54, and the missile mode to norm as requested. Check.
Make sure emergency storage jettison push button light is out.
Okay, we talked about that when we did the lights test. It is out. Check.
Set air source to off.
Air source is set to off. Check.
Hydraulic transfer pump to off.
Okay, the hydraulic transfer pump and the emergency hydraulic switch. These guys are a little buggy. I have had limited success getting them to go back down through the test. So essentially what he's going to want to do is he wants us to cycle through them, verify that everything's working, check the hydraulic pressure. We're going to be skipping that particular portion. I'm going to do my best to explain what you would be looking for, but we're not going to actually actuate the switches because the problem is that I can get them to come up. I have a problem getting them to go back down, which is what we want before we can actually start the aircraft. So keep that in mind if you guys are running into this problem. So in this case, I'm just going to say check. Check.
Set emergency flight hydro to low and check for on flag in emergency flight low hydraulic pressure window.
Okay, so what he's looking for here is if we had kicked the low, the hydraulic switch to low, you would see this flag right here switch to on. Instead of off right here, it would say on. But I'm not going to do that again because of the issue that I was having with the switches. Check.
Set emergency flight hydraulics to high and check for on flag in emergency flight high hydraulic pressure window.
So again, this would be in the full forward position on the switch, and this indicator right here in the middle where the flag says off should say on. Check.
Set emergency flight hydraulics to auto.
And then we would kick them back to auto, which is the by default low. Check.
Engine crank switch to right. Right throttle to idle at 20% RPM. Check that crank switch returns to off at around 50% RPM.
Okay, the other thing I'm going to do real quick that he hasn't told us to do, we'll wait till the end. We'll see how this goes. Never mind. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and kick the right switch over here. Oh, nope, see, that's exactly what I wanted to wait for. Let me put that back to center for a second. So, the one thing he didn't tell us to do that you guys want to be aware of is after we go through the instrument test, right-click the master test switch, bring it back to off, and right-click. And what that will do is reset your gauges. That way you can actually read them when it goes to time to crank. So, once she tells you to do the engine crank, make sure you come over here to your master test switch and set it to off. Okay? So, going to right. Looking for 20%. 20%. Setting our right throttle to idle, which this induces fuel into the engine. And she should stabilize at about 70%. And at 50%, you can see the switch went back to its center position. All right, we're golden. We're idling just about 72. Check.
Check that right generator and right fuel pressure caution lights are off.
Okay, so here's the left generator. So the right generator light would be right next to it. Here's the left fuel pressure light, and here this would be the right. So they are both extinguished. Check.
Check engine instruments within normal parameters.
Okay, engine instruments at normal parameters. Engine RPM should be between 62 and 78%. We're rocking at about 71, 72, so we're good there. Exhaust temperature should be approximately 500 degrees Celsius, so we're rocking about 480 or so, and you can see that there's the Celsius times 100. Okay, and then fuel flow indication should be between 950 and 400 pounds per hour, and we're sitting at just over 1,000, so good there. While we're up here, here's our exhaust nozzle indicator for the right engine. It should be at 100%, which it is. That means that the exhaust nozzle for the right engine is fully open. And you can see that there. Okay, and then our oil pressure should be between 25 to 35 psi. Now, this guy looks like he is running a little high, but maybe not much. Nope, that'd be 2040. So we're actually rocking about 44. PSI, but again, nothing to worry about in this particular situation. Okay, and then finally, the flight hydraulic pressure should be at about 3,000 PSI, which we see right there. Okay, check.
Order plane captain to disconnect external power.
Alright, so we're going to disconnect the ground power, so we're going to come here to our ground menu, F8, F2 for electrical power, and off.
Chief, turn off the ground power.
Okay, and you can see up there, ground power is now off. Check. Check.
Engine crank switch to left. When combined hydraulic pressure reaches 3,000 psi, engine crank switch back to off.
Okay, now the interesting part here is that when combined engine pressure reaches 3,000 psi, technically it already is, but let's go ahead and flip it over. Okay, so technically that's combined 6,000, but we're going to go ahead and switch it back to off with the right click. Okay, check. Check.
Set hydraulic transfer pump to normal.
Okay, and this is another one that I'm not going to do because this is another one that had an issue. Check.
Hydraulic transfer pump to off.
Check.
Set engine crank to left. Left throttle to idle
All right.
at 20% RPM.
So here we're going to actually start her up.
Switch returns to off at around 50% RPM.
So there's the click. Looking for 20%. All right. Fuel induction. Throttle to idle. And now monitor for 50% where the switch will come back to its normal position. And there we go. All right. Check.
Check that left generator and left fuel pressure caution lights are off.
Okay, there's those two lights that we were looking at earlier, de-illuminated, turned off. Check.
Check engine instruments within normal parameters.
Okay, so here we're just going to sort of compare here. We got the left exhaust nozzle back up at 100% again, and you can see here that the oil pressure on the right engine, as it's been on, is sort of slowly dropping, so it's starting to stabilize. But we're sitting here rocking right about 45 psi, so it's a little high. Hydraulic pressure though sitting at 3,000. RPM again 72. Exhaust temperature about 500 degrees Celsius. And again, fuel flow starting at just over 1,000. Check.
Order the plane captain to disconnect the external air.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go to our radio menu, F8. Find our ground air supply and disconnect.
Chief, disconnect ground air supply.
And you'll hear it shut off. There it goes. It's real quiet in the plane. Check.
Cycle air source switch to left, right, then both engines and verify airflow in all positions.
All right, so here we go. You can hear the airflow. And we're good. Check.
Set hydraulic transfer pump to normal.
Okay, and again, I wasn't doing that part because of the switch issue. Check.
SAS channel switches to on.
Okay, so the SAS switches are your flight augmentation switches, okay? It basically makes the aircraft a little bit easier to fly. And so you want to make sure you have the channels activated for each axis, your pitch, your roll, your yaw. So that's these guys right here. Check.
Cycle engine mode selectors and verify that each engine's secondary mode caution light illuminates.
Okay, so Check the right. And you can see there's the right engine secondary. Go back to primary. And left engine secondary. We're good there. Check.
Set UHF function selector to TR plus G or both.
Okay, so we can do the main, which is the transmit. In this case, we're going to go with both. Now, the preset, this is if you are in your mission editor and you have predefined frequencies built into the radio. You have to do that through the mission editor. Then you can go to your preset and be able to cycle through whichever channel that you want that way. Or you can come to manual, and then by using these guys, you can actually change the frequency. Okay? I'm just going to go back to preset. Check.
Set TACAN function selector to TR.
TR is transmit and receive for the TACAN. This means you can both transmit and receive the frequency. Check.
ARA 63 power switch to on.
Okay, so this is our navigation radio. Check.
Turn on all displays.
Okay, so here we have our HUD. Or, excuse me, that's not right. I can't see over that guy. VDI, I'm sorry. Middle one's our HUD. See the HUD come to life there. And the last one is the HSD and ECM, which is this guy down here. Okay, and then here we can come and adjust our brightness. Okay, check.
Turn on radar altimeter.
Alright, so with the radar altimeter, we're just going to move the knob to the right, and then we can set our indexer to what altitude we want to be alerted. So we'll set it for, I guess in this case, let's call it about 250 feet. So when the aircraft drops below 250 feet, after we've reached above it, the radar altimeter will scream at us. Okay? Check.
Set trim to 0.
Alright, so using our trim controls on our flight stick, the inner needle there is our pitch. So we're going to set it to 0. And then the outer needle is our roll axis. Okay? Alright, check.
Erect the standby attitude gyro.
Okay, and all we're going to do with the standby ADI is just thunk the button. There we go. And then we can set it down to right about dead center. Okay, check. Check.
Extend speed brake partially, retract then extend fully. Check for fluctuations in stabilizer to verify integrated trim operations.
Alright, so we're going to extend our speed brake. And actually that's another control that we'll go over real quick. I forgot to tell you guys about that one. That's my fault. So speed brake extend, this will actually pull it out, left control B, and retract is left shift and B. Now the thing about the speed brake that I'll show you guys real quick on the F-14 is when you pop the button, okay, this is me tapping on and off, click, 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 okay, and then you have to hold left shift B to bring it back in. So if I hold left control B, full extension, holding left shift B, bring it back in. If I don't hold left shift B, it still comes back in. Okay? So with retract, it's a quick tap. With the extend, you can pulse it. Alright, hope that makes sense for you guys. Coming back in. Okay? And coming back to do the test he wanted us to do. So there's a quick tap. And you can also see the indicator here, indicating the speed brake is extended. Okay, so if I close it, that means speed brake's in, tap it, and this lets you know that it's out. Doesn't tell you how much it's out, but lets you know that it's out. Okay, no fluctuations, everything's good. Check. Check.
Extend and retract refuel probe.
Okay, so we're going to click our fuel probe button, or switch. Okay, and there's the fuel probe out. And notice that the light illuminated very briefly while it transitions. So watch it again as we retract it. Let you know again, just like the landing gear, let you know it's in motion. Okay, and it retracted just fine. Check. Check.
Emergency wing sweep handle to full forward.
And that beeping is the radar altimeter coming online. Okay. Alright, so now what he's asked to do is put the wing sweep to full forward. So we're just going to grab it, push it all the way forward, then we're going to right click it. Check.
Set external lights according to situation.
Okay, so the one thing that he didn't have us do just yet, so I'm going to show you guys real quick, is you want to make sure you hit your master reset button on the wing sweep system. So we brought it forward, you're going to right click it, and that allows it to be controlled by the CAD system. Okay, the CAD is the, I can't remember what this is, it's computer air something or another. Hold on one second. Central Air Data Computer. My apologies. Okay, so if you ever hear someone mentioning the CAD-C, it's the Central Air Data Computer. It's basically what controls the wing sweep functions and a bunch of the other things in the aircraft, but that's the biggest one that you want to look for. Now, our light panel. Okay, so the master light, this is for the ACM panel. Our ACM panel is up here, our air combat panel. Okay, then we have our tail light, our wingtip lights for the position lights. You can set them to steady or flash. I'm going to go ahead and leave them on steady. And then our anti-collision light. And then if it's night, you can check your formation lights to increase the brightness. Okay, so we can just crank them all the way up. And then you have your console lights. You have your instrument panel. And your indexers. Okay? I love the red. At night, she's just badass. So the other cool thing, real quick, on the lights is you have a white light for night, or you have the red. Okay, rock some Death Star type shit. Anyway, check. Check.
Verify flaps and flaps operation, and then down.
Okay, flaps and flaps operation. So we're going to go ahead and pull the switch down. And she's actually not going to do anything at that point. So what we need to do is get the wings to extend. And that was my fault because I didn't close the cover. And then now we're going to hit the master reset. And switch us into the auto mode. So real quick, because I don't think I went over that either, so let's go ahead and quick touch on that. Wing sweep. Okay, you guys are going to want all of these. The aft mode will pull the wings to full back. Auto mode will allow the CAD system that we just talked about to control the wings, which is why the wings just swept forward. Bomb mode. If the wings are swept forward, it will sweep them backwards to 55 degrees. If they are past 55 degrees at the time of going into bomb mode, so let's say they're at 60 degrees and you hit the bomb mode, the wings won't do anything. They will stay at 55 or at 60 degrees. However, if you reduce in speed to a point where they want to come forward, they will not come any more forward than 55 degrees. I hope that makes sense. And then, of course, the wing sweep full forward. Okay. Now, when you hit in the auto mode, you get your auto indication here. Any other mode, and you get manual. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and leave those in the manual mode. So just one more quick touch on the wing sweep control, because I know that was sort of screwed up for lack of better terminology. So remember, initially this cover was up, the wing sweep handle was all the way back. What we did is we pushed the wing sweep forward handle all the way, or wing sweep handle all the way forward, then right clicked it to put it down in, which allows the actuator for the CAD-C to actually manually control it. Then we need to close our guard, hit the master reset, and then put the wings into auto mode with the controls that I just showed you on screen. Once you do that, the wings will come forward. Once the wings come forward, then you can test your flap system. So if we go into the F2 mode, you can see the flaps are down. Now he wanted us to check it in the up position. So luckily we bound it, so that's full flaps. Flaps up. Okay, everything's working great. And we can also check that down here. So you can see the up needle here. Flaps in full down, everything's golden. Or you can manually control them, okay, and bring them up little by little. Okay, so that is the advantage. If you have an axis that you can use to bind to your flaps, I highly recommend it, because then you get that pulsing, right? You don't have to actually go full flaps down, so it's kind of nice. So there's flaps up. Let's get them back into the down position for takeoff. Check.
Flight controls wipeout.
Alright, and that was the master reset. So boom, wipe out. And then what we're going to do is this. Okay, making sure that nothing's in a stuck position. Check our rudders. Make sure everything's clear. Check.
Toggle DLC and verify stabulator shift with DLC input.
Okay, the DLC. Gosh, another one. Just controls. So DLC stands for direct lift control. Okay, and what it does is allows to control the aircraft without any movement from the stick or throttles. It's very handy when coming in for landing, especially on deck. So it should be just DLC. So you have the DLC thumb wheel aft and DLC thumb wheel forward and DLC toggle. So toggle will activate the DLC system. Forward will cause the aircraft to pitch forward a little bit, and aft cause it to pitch aft just a little bit, okay? And it makes it a little bit easier to handle the aircraft when you're coming in for landing and things of that nature, all right? So make sure you guys map those as well. I don't remember if these were actually here. You may have to put your own binds in there as well, but I'll give you this, that Heatblur did a great job with leaving most of the controls open to your own configuration. So pretty handy. All right, so going back into it, we're going to toggle it. Okay, and you can see there that the controls making some changes. All right, so now we're in DLC mode. Tap it forward. No changes, everything's golden. All right. Check.
Set anti-skid spoiler brake switch to spoiler only.
Okay, so we're going to put spoiler only, so go down. Check.
Test spoilers and throttles.
So we're going to test our throttles. And you can see what's happened there, right? So when I pull the throttles back, the spoilers come out. You can see them over there. When I push the throttles forward, they're coming down. I'm holding the brake here out. We're dragging a little bit, so that's the best I'm going to do there. Okay? So, long story short, she's working. Check. Check.
Set anti-skid spoiler brake switch to off.
Okay, back to off. Check. Check.
Retract flaps and slats.
Okay, so retract. Check.
Set maneuver flaps to down.
Check.
Set wing sweep to 50 degrees using manual mode.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is switch her into manual. Then we're going to come here, lift the cover up, lift our handle up, and bring it back to 50 degrees. And you can see this little indicator here, okay? This guy here on the left lets you know where the handle position is. Check.
Retract maneuver flaps.
Oops, already did that. Check.
Set wing sweep mode to bomb and verify maneuver flap retraction.
Okay, so now we're going to click that guy back down. And the flaps did retract. And you can tell we're in bomb mode because we're at 55 degree sweep. Check.
Set emergency sweep handle to 68 degrees.
Check.
Set emergency sweep handle to 68 degrees, then oversweep until HZ tail authorization caution light goes out and over flag appears in wing sweep indicator.
Okay, so you saw the HZ tail light briefly there. CAD-C, and there's the wing sweep. And you can see what oversweep is you can see how the wings are retracted over the control surfaces on the rear, the horizontal stabilizers. Okay, that's what oversweep is, and what they do is this is used for storing the aircraft on the carriers. Okay, check.
Set wing sweep mode to auto.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and thunk it back down. And come up here, hit our auto button. There she goes. And close our flap there. Check.
Press the master reset button.
And here's the master reset. And here come the wings. Check.
Run radar altimeter bit by depressing the knob.
Check.
Check that displays are set as needed.
Okay, we're golden for now. Check.
Run TACAN bit.
TACAN bit. We'll just push this guy right here. Okay, we got the go, no-go status lights. We're good. Check. Check.
Run ARA 63 bit.
Okay. Performing. Check.
Set altimeter reference pressure and reset mode.
So reset mode, what we're going to do is kick it over here. 1, 2, 3 seconds. Okay, and you saw the flag clear. And we'll set our altimeter pressure at 29902. Check.
Compare compass heading with IMU heading on HUD, VDI, HSD, and BDHI.
Okay, so we're showing about 148 degrees here. Okay, same information here. And same information here, as you can see on the diamond is our current heading. Check.
Check flight instruments.
Okay, and that's what we did here. Okay, everything's working. Spoilers are working. Check. Check.
Okay. Ready to taxi.
Alright. So we are golden at that point. Alright guys, well the aircraft is now ready for taxi, so the last thing that we would do is simply kick the parking brake over here and start applying our... last thing is you also want to bind... Gosh, I just can't get them all. Last thing you want to bind is your nose wheel steering button, which is November on your keyboard. Okay. All you'll do here is tap it. You can see nose wheel steering is engaged. Apply your power. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, sir. Be sure to like and subscribe, guys, and we'll catch you next time.